happened to Ohio Players?
The Ohio Players were one of the finest funk bands of the mid-1970s with their slinky horn-powered grooves, outstanding musicianship, and eye-popping record covers. The Ohio Untouchables were formed in 1959 in Dayton, Ohio, and originally consisted of singer-guitarist Robert Ward, bassist Marshall Rock Jones, guitarist Clarence Satchel, drummer Cornelius Johnson, and trumpeter/trombonist Ralph Pee Wee Middlebrooks. Ward's relative founded the Detroit-based Lupin Records in late 1961, and the Ohio Untouchables traveled north to the Motor City to back the Falcons on their hit, I Found a Love. The Ohio Untouchables soon made their headlining debut with Love is Amazing, but the group essentially disbanded when Ward left for a solo career. Ward had proven to be an unreliable leader, walking off the stage during performances and forcing the band to stop playing. The band eventually agreed to continue playing even after he had quit. In 1964, Ward and Jones got into a fistfight and the group disbanded for the time. Ward was able to find new backups and the key members of the group returned to Dayton. Middlebrooks, Jones, and newly added guitarist Leroy Sugarfoot Bonner returned to Dayton at that point, where they recruited saxophone player Andrew Noland and drummer Gary Webster, the latter a somewhat elusive figure whose true involvement in the group's convoluted history has never been definitely answered. Some sources credit him as a founding untouchable, others even as the band's early leader. The ensemble adjusted its format to accommodate Bonner's musical style preferences and avoid competing with Ward. By 1965, the group had changed its name to the Ohio Players, which reflected the members' self-perceptions as musicians and ladies' men. In any case, the newly renamed Ohio Players were signed as the house band for New York-based Compass Records by 1967, backing vocalist Helena Ferguson on her lone hit Where's the Party before releasing their solo debut, Trespassing, which topped the R&B charts in early 1968. Even though the Players' signature bottom-heavy, horn-driven sound was already emerging, their follow-up It's a Crying Shame flopped and they left Compass as the label teetered on the verge of bankruptcy. Their early Compass sides were eventually released under the name First Impressions. The Players then signed with Capitol, where Here Today, Gone Tomorrow, released in 1969, was a small hit. An album, Observations in Time, followed soon after with covers of Summertime and Over the Rainbow hinting at the artistic excursions to come. Beers and Robinson went on to have solo careers, while the remaining members returned to Dayton, later reunited with keyboardist, vocalist, and songwriter Walter Juni Morrison, trumpet player Bruce Napier, and trombonist Marvin Pierce in 1970. Influenced by Sly and the Family Stone's groundbreaking funk, and with the nasal cartoon voice Bonner taking over vocal duties, the new Ohio Players lineup made their debut with the single Pain, issued on the small local label Rubber Town Sounds. James Johnson, a vocalist and saxophone player, joined the band at this time. It was quickly picked up for distribution by the Detroit-based Westbound label, reaching the R&B Top 40 in late 1971. Although he was not acknowledged on their albums Pain and Pleasure, Dale Allen shared co-lead vocals on some of the early Westbound tracks. The group met George Clinton, who appreciated their music at Westbound Records. Pat Running Bear Evans, a spiked black leather bikini-clad bald figure, would later adorn farther Ohio Players albums such as Climax, Ecstasy, and Rattlesnake, grace the avant-garde covers of the two albums. Pain, an LP released the same year, was followed by Pleasure in 1972, which featured the absurdist blockbuster Funky Warm. On May 26, 1973, Funky Warm achieved number 1 on the Billboard R&B chart and number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100. Jay-Z sampled their title track Ecstasy from the 1973 album Ecstasy on Brooklyn's Finest from the 1996 album Reasonable Doubt, which featured the Notorious B.I.G. The Players signed to Mercury after the release of Ecstasy in 1973 and after the release of Climax in 1974. They made yet further lineup changes, with keyboardist Billy Beck replacing Morrison, who later joined Parliament, and drummer Jimmy Diamond Williams taking over for Webster. The Ohio Players had their biggest success with Mercury. Not only did their sound come together, but they also became known for their sexually daring LP covers, which began during their time on Westbound. By that time, their lineup had changed yet again, with keyboardist Billy Beck replacing Morrison and drummer Jimmy Diamond Williams replacing Webster on the drums. Clarence Chet Willis, a second guitarist/vocalist, and Robert Kumba Jones joined them on later albums. Meanwhile, keyboardist Walter Juni Morrison released 3 solo albums before joining Funkadelic to write the classic song One Nation Under a Groove. Skin Tight, their Mercury debut from 1974, was their first undeniable hit, spawning the famous title track as well as Jive Turkey. Fire, the Players' follow-up, remains their masterwork, topping the pop charts with the bone-rattling title cut, which was also a #1 hit. I Want to Be Free, one of the band's few attempts at social commentary, was also a huge hit. Honey, released in 1975, produced the chart-topping masterpiece Love Roller Coaster, as well as the successes Sweet Sticky Thing and Fop. It featured possibly the Players' most provocative and sensual cover to date. James Johnson, a saxophone player, was also added to the ensemble. The Players' last #1 R&B success was Hoochie Coo from Contradiction in 1976. OHIO, Ohio from Angel in 1977 was their last major hit on any chart, and the band's fortunes continued to dwindle as the 1970s drew to a conclusion. 3 members of the band moved on to form Shadow in 1979, which went on to record 3 albums. The Players had one final Mercury release in 1979, and after signing with Arista, they returned with Everybody Up, followed by a pair of mediocre Boardwalk releases. 1981's Tenderness and 1982's Ouch, Graduation, was released in 1984, and it took 4 years for their following album Back to be released. Throughout the 1980s, a reformed Ohio Players recorded with Sweat, becoming a small success song in 1988. Tenderness, Ouch, and Graduation were their 3 albums released during the decade of the 1980s. In 1993, another compilation, Orgasm, was released. There was no new material, yet numerous lineups continued to perform live long into the following decades. The band continued to record and play occasionally despite the death of core members' following names: Satchel in December 1995, Middlebrooks in November 1997, Ward in December 2008, Johns in February 2009, Bonner in January 2013, and Morrison in February 2017. The Ohio Players were inducted into the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame as part of the inaugural class in August 2013 at Cleveland State University's auditorium. Gary Webster, the original drummer, died on January 14, 2022 at the age of 84. And that's what happened to the Ohio Players. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to give me some video ideas, check me out on Patreon and see how you can support this channel as well. And here's some of my favorite Ohio Player songs on screen. Check it out. Take a trip through memory lane and let me know. Give me some facts I didn't mention. Let me know your favorite Ohio Player songs. And let me know if you've seen them live in concert. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.